Hi, my name is David Fleming from Disciples Ignited, a ministry that's focused on Jesus, advancing his kingdom, and preparing his disciples. Now, we're studying about living a godly life, living like Jesus. And then we're studying specifically that which Peter teaches us in his second book, 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 through 11. And in this passage, he gives us several qualities, several building blocks towards building a godly life. And today we're going to be focusing in on a building block, godly knowledge. We read about it in 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 5. I'll be reading it to you from the English Standard Version. Peter wrote, "Make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue and virtue with knowledge." Now, this godly knowledge that we're talking about today is a result of seeking after it. It's something that you're going to learn. It's something that you're going to study, but it's also something that you have been seeking for. You're inquiring about it. You're studying for it. You're seeking after it. And how does it come to you? Well, like I said, it might start out by something that you've read in a book, for instance, the Bible, of course. But then all of a sudden it becomes real to you. It's a revelation that comes to you. And that's where godly knowledge really starts. It's a revelation. I remember when the Lord revealed himself to me when I was 16 years old. I had been brought up in church. I knew about Jesus, but he wasn't real to me. He definitely wasn't my Lord or my Savior. I wasn't serving him. I wasn't walking with him. I was definitely a mess. Even though I was going to church and had been raised in church and knew all the Bible stories and stuff like that. But I remember that day that the Lord sent somebody to me at church, and they ran down the hall and they grabbed me by the shoulders and they said, "David, God is real." I'm telling you, it was as if the Lord himself had grabbed me and said, "David, I'm real." The Lord at that very moment revealed himself to me. I had an experience with Jesus, and that started me on the path towards seeking after Jesus, and where virtue and godliness and faith began to grow in my life. You know, we read about this, how the Lord revealed himself to Peter. That day in Matthew chapter 16, verses 16 through 17, he had asked the disciples, "Who do you say that I am? And who do other people say that I am?" And then Peter spoke up and he said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven." Now, we know that Peter already knew who Jesus was. I mean, as far as a rabbi, he worked miracles. But that day, Peter revealed that he had had a revelation from the Father that Jesus was truly the Messiah. Well, godly knowledge involves a revelation. We also see that it involves experience. It's something that you're going to encounter. You're going to experience it. I love the story about how Jesus was walking on the water towards the disciples and how they had an experience with Jesus. We read about it in Matthew chapter 14, verses 27 through 29. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. Peter wasn't satisfied just know about Jesus. He wanted to experience Jesus. He wanted to experience life just like Jesus did. And so Jesus said, "All right, come on. You can walk on water with me." And Peter did. Peter had a revelation that Jesus was the Messiah, but he also had an experience with Jesus. He experienced Jesus in power and might. But I tell you what, godly knowledge, while it does involve revelation, it involves a supernatural experience, but it always leads to action. James tells it this way in James chapter 2, verse 26. Faith without works is dead. So the three things that are involved in godly knowledge are revelation, your experience with Jesus, and acting on it. So if you want to live a godly life just like Jesus, remember this. It depends partly upon godly knowledge. Seek after him, and he will reveal more of himself to you. And that is going to become a godly building block in your life, leading you to godly living. There's more to learn, though, about godly living, so join me tomorrow and we'll study some more. See you then.